Welcome to the band with Kaleidoscope Ears, and we're going to be just talking about Day Tripper today. Hi, James. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, Vinny. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I got a smile on my face. Things are going good these days, so I'm happy about that.
We're talking about a good and interesting song. So,
Very interesting song. Very interesting song. Day Tripper, which John admitted was a drug song. You know that, right? So yeah, why don't you give us a little bit of context on Day Tripper here?
right, okay. Well, for those who don't know, this particular song was recorded on October 16th, 1965, and it was recorded as one of those. They are under the gun. They need a new number one hit single. Lol. Okay, let's roll this one out. Of course, part of their we have to create a Christmas single and get it out right away. So apparently, John is quoted as saying, Day Tripper was written under complete pressure based on an old folk song I wrote about a month previous. It was very hard going, that, and it sounds it. It wasn't a serious message song, it was a drug song. In a way, it was a day tripper. I just like the word. I do note that there is some discrepancy over who exactly wrote what, and although John claimed to have written it completely and it was his song, Paul did take some credit. He said it was a co-written effort. We were both there making it all up, but I would give John the main credit. Probably the idea came from John because he sang the lead, but it was a close thing. We both put a lot of work in it. And that's an interesting take because if I was just listening, I would have assumed this is basically a John song. Maybe Paul contributed with harmonies and stuff, but I don't know if I detect the Paul McCartney writing influence in this. What say you, Vinny?
Well, when we talk about the lyrics, I might go there because I sent you a copy of John's handwritten lyrics of the song, and if you notice the chorus lyrics aren't there. I'm pretty sure they're not there anyway, as I recall. And the chorus, well, that's Day Tripper, right? And it's one of those situations, by the way, that the chorus is baked into the verse, so you can't really separate verse and chorus. They're all part of one thing. But my take, it's interesting to listen to, and I highly recommend, like for guys that want to learn the exact guitar parts and everything, there's so much. Mike Pichelli, his breakdown of Day Tripper, the musical parts is awesome, man. And you'll be surprised at what John does. Like, it's the most unique rhythm guitar playing I've ever seen, like, from that era. Like he's playing but when it goes to the build-up, and what I'm not going to call the bridge, but that whole thing, he does these really bizarre inversions of B7 chords and B sus chords, like just. He must have sat down with the band and said, "Okay, let's try this one now, and let's try this one now," and they found it. But regarding Paul's input. I think some of the lyrics of the chorus are on his part, and I'm surprised there's a moment in there. Well, let's talk about the lyrics. There's a moment in there where John let something slip by that I thought was kind of incorrect for the spirit of what the song was saying. Like, one night stand, she comes and goes. She trips on the weekend and she's back to work on Monday, that sort of thing, right? Now, I had a thought about this. I have this knack for, like, I listen to lyrics, and I'll hear a twist of a phrase, and then I think, I know where that came from, like a more standardized kind of phrase, and the writer probably figured, it's too passé, so let me twist a little bit. I think what happens here, all right, one-way ticket, yeah. One-way ticket means you're totally committed. You're going there and you're staying. This is the opposite of what Day Tripper's saying, right?
Yeah.
So I think that McCartney came up with round-trip ticket, yeah, but try to sing that.
No, yeah.
It ain't going to flow out. Round-trip ticket. It's like you'll stumble over it even. So I have this, like, idea that Paul came up with round-trip ticket, and they tried it, and John was like, nah. How about one-way ticket? But he didn't bother to think about that's kind of antithetical to what the song says. So,
Sometimes you just got to go with what sounds better.
yeah. And there's another thing. She only played one night stands, right? I researched this. I even used the despicable AI to see if I could find the source. But one night stand, as far as I remember when I was a young musician, a one night stand means you got like a gig at this bar for one night, but you're never going to be there again, you know? It was, it was in the musical circles. Apparently, the saying "one night stand" goes all the way back to Britain in early 1900s, late 1800s. All right, and it referred to a fleeting thing, which makes sense. But I was looking for when in history did one night stand begin to have a sexual connotation, right? Because I thought, was it the Beatles that started that connotation off? Could it have been them that, they said one night stand and people started picking up on that as a sexual reference? I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. I had some fun thinking about that.
So what's happening musically?
Yeah, wow. Okay. I have to start with, I was like, my parents gave me an acoustic guitar when I was 8 years old. They bought me for my birthday. And they probably figured, oh, that's going to be a cute little hobby of his, and he'll grow up to be an accountant, of course. Little did they know. Anyway, at 9 years old, this song was released. And I remember at that tender age, I heard that lick, that... And I thought, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. I thought it was just... I can't think of any words to describe the intensity of coolness of that lick, the way it was to me when I was a kid. And I loved it so much that I had... my parents lived at my grandparents' house for a time when I was that age. And I had a young uncle, a very young uncle. He was in his teens and I was like 9, right? And he played guitar, and I used to watch him play guitar, right? This one day, yeah, and his friends, you know how teens are. Like if I would try to be social with them, they'd mock me, and they'd be nasty to me and all that. And I always had this "I'll show them" thing in my head because they all played guitar, right? Mm. So I remember I didn't have perfect pitch, and I didn't put the record on. I just took a note, G, and I figured out... And I thought, I'll show them. I know the lick, right? So I go out. I could picture it in my mind, like going out there in the front yard where they're hanging out. And I said, I learned Day Tripper. And I played it for them, and they laughed at me and said, "Oh, you're in the wrong key." Instead of saying, "Nice work, you used your ears to get that. You're 9 years old and you got that. That's pretty good." No, they had to mock me. So,
I am giving you the thumbs up, Vinny. That's a hell of a lot better than I would have done at 9 years old. Let me tell you.
All right, but speaking about the song, this lick, first of all, like in terms of I didn't even write this part down in my notes, but if you listen to the lick, it sounds like there are two guitars playing that lick on the intro. You can hear it, right? It almost has like this chorus effect sound, but it's a bit too perfect, so I'm thinking it might be automatic double tracking on that one, Yeah, so... Look, I have to say, like, the Beatles have totally mastered the art of introducing a song and mastered the art of like, an opening lick for a song. Day Tripper is my second favorite. Oddly enough, George Harrison came up with my first favorite, which was I Want to Tell You lick. I think that's an awesome lick. If I could still play it. It's a killer lick. I just love that lick. There's a bunch of things in that song that just blow me away. But we're talking about Day Tripper. So, Day Tripper, listen to it with the ears of 60s, early 60s rock and roll, like the whole rock and roll thing. When you listen to Day Tripper, you can hear it straddling the borderline between what they called rock and roll and what eventually became just called rock. You know, this song is heavy. It could be thought of as rock, but it's a rock and roll song because it has blues instilled into it.
Can I ask a question about this? Because in Wikipedia, of all places, it says Lennon based the song's guitar riff on that from Bobby Parker's "Watch Your Step," which had also been his model for "I Feel Fine" in 1964. I am unfamiliar with that particularly.
Yeah, you know, I was going to research that and listen to it, but I became so overwhelmed with the other parts of this that I didn't look it up. But I'm sure people should go look it up. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes for folks. But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know anything about that. But you know, the Beatles, man, it's like, as much as it might somewhat resemble it, you could probably guess that the Beatles lick is a lot better than the original. All right, blues used to be really slow and swampy, you know, my baby left me. You know, that sort of thing, right? Then it turned into rhythm and blues, but it had a form. I was even taught the blues form in college, God bless these guys, which is commonly like in the key of E would be. Now the 5 chord, the 4 chord, and the 1 chord. Go back to the 5. That is standard 12-bar blues. Then along comes Chuck Berry, and he takes the same exact progression. He goes, and now we get rhythm and blues, rock and roll, right? What began to happen, I'm not sure if this is a Beatles first or who did this first, but what began to happen in music is that the first 4 bars of the 12-bar blues were replicated exactly as they are. And then after that, you could go off. The next 8 bars, you could go off and you know, change things up. Some examples. First, I'll give examples of popular music of that era that did 12-bar blues completely. You wouldn't even know it, really. But let's see. Band called the Mamas and the Papas, right? A song called Creek Alley, which was their biography song. So you got your 1, 4, and 5 dominant sevenths in that song. All right, it follows closely to 12-bar blues at the very least, you know. From the 70s, Life in the Fast Lane. The Eagles, right? That's a 12-bar blues, all right? So there are many, many, many songs that even when rock and roll became rock, they still followed somewhat of the blues pattern, okay? Songs that deviate from it, the only two, there are plenty of them, take my word for it, there are a lot of them, but the only ones I could remember were Beatles songs. One is Your Blues and Lonely. So now we don't have our normal turnaround. And then we do go to our 5 chord there, but it breaks it up. It doesn't sound as a 12-bar blues. Another one would be Revolution, okay? And this song is going to come up later. Okay, this song is going to come up later.
So in Day Tripper, it is 8 bars of the 12-bar blues before they change it up, right?
Yeah, 8 bars. Yeah, that's 8 bars.
Okay, so again from Wikipedia. So after the first 8 bars with the change to the 4 chord, followed by the expected return to 1, the chorus portion of the verse then departs from the form by moving to the parallel major version of the home key's relative minor. Is that correct?
The home key is E, the relative minor would be C sharp minor, and what kind of ish. All right, I get where a theorist might say that. It's the chord they're talking about is a C sharp 7, but we don't get there till the end.
Yeah, no, because it goes to the F sharp, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's a very strong resolution to that chord. So she was a day tripper. So F sharp 7, A7. And that's supposedly the resolution to that new key. I'm not hearing that. It doesn't sound like, oh, I could rest there. So we'll go into the chord changes a bit later. It's Day Tripper is actually a very odd little song, chord movement wise, right? You got that, right?
Yeah, I didn't get where any of that was coming from, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, so look, we already know, all right, our first half of the verse, the first four bars are based on blues movement, chord movement, right? And instead of going, and then going to the 5, instead of doing all that, they go, F sharp 7, A7, G sharp 7, C sharp 7, and John Lennon's weirdness to the B. Now I'm going to ask you, I'm going to bring it up later, so I don't want to give it away, but does this movement from here to here sound at all familiar to you from the Beatles' repertoire? It might.
One more time?
You might.
Yeah, I'm sure it rings a bell, but I'm not going to identify it.
Once you hear it, you won't be able to unhear it. But that's for another section where we'll talk about it. All right. So I guess, see, the way I envision this when I looked at the big picture is that there are two things to think about. The main part of the song, which is the verse with the embedded chorus, that. And then there's that big buildup, which someone referred to as a middle 8, even though it's 12 bars. So it's really a middle 12. I wouldn't call it a bridge because it doesn't do what a bridge does. You know, I mean, you could say it bridges us back to the verse, but
It's okay from my perspective, my layman's perspective. The interesting part about this is it just hangs on that one chord for the entirety of that section. And it just keeps building and building and building, and longer than you would expect it to, right? I think that's
Indeed.
that's kind of what's interesting about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, okay, I'll tell you what, let's talk about the verse and the chord movement in the verse first, and then we'll go right to the middle 12, because there's some great stuff going on in there, man. There really is. It's just pure awesome. All right, so we know E7, A. Now, mind you, this song is all based on 7th chords. As when we have the lick, there's my flatted 7th of the E chord. And then it trails over into the A chord, the flatted 7th again. So we know, all right, that's blues. 1 dominant 7, 4 dominant 7, bingo, right? Now this F sharp going to A. One moment.
Oh, you know what? That movement is honey pie, wild honey pie, right?
Wild honey pie. Wild honey pie was a bunch of...
That particular movement.
Oh yeah, they kind of emulated a blues, like a blues stir around there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not hearing that myself.
There was something about that A7 to G.
The F sharp to A7. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. This move.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
I could. All right, I can understand why you'd hear that. I'd have to break the song down. It's
Yeah.
such a nutty song that I never bothered with it, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, but okay. All right. So anyway, F sharp 7 to A. If I were to make those major chords, including the E, all right, but they're seventh chords. They still sound good. For the life of me, that 2 dominant 7, which it's a secondary dominant, it's supposed to resolve to B. All right, it's supposed to resolve to B7. In the key of E, F sharp 7 is the 5 of. But instead they go. And it seems to work. I've heard it in many, many, many songs, not just Beatles. This motion.
Well, now I'm thinking
I
Eight
can-
Days a Week, and I'm thinking Sergeant Pepper.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll transpose to E on this. So there it is, which may tell us that Paul had something to do with the chorus of the
Right.
song.
Right. Yeah.
A little bit of musical forensics there, right? We don't know for sure. But in terms of theory, man, I couldn't. I mean, I could come up with excuses like, okay, F sharp 7 going to A7. Maybe it comes out of blues. All right, the blues turn around. Now. So that was F sharp 7 to A. I didn't put the 7th right there because just to give you the melody of the turnaround, but if I did a 7th, I'll put it on top. It's still there. So that, this is blues theory, man. It's really deep. I discovered the theory, but I'm telling you, there's way more lurking inside of that theory. So there are certain places where diminished 7th chords come in songs. I can't explain them, and they work. And then I discover, it's come out of the blues. It's part of the blues turnaround, right? So, yeah. So anyway, our F sharp 7, after that whole long-winded thing, it's going to A7. But then the A7 drops down to another secondary dominant of the key of E, which should have gone to C sharp minor. But what it's doing, it's almost acting like a cascading fourths. So it doesn't matter if it's C minor, C major, or C7. John's problem was, how do I get back home from there? It's already too late. I've got too many measures behind me. I have to get back soon. So he does the really quirky move of, and it almost sounds like a blues turnaround in F sharp, right? But we're going to E, so we get, and it kind of works in a strange way.
I think the lick justifies it. It keeps anchoring the song back in E, right?
That's a great point. The lick does anchor you inside the song. That's a great point. Yeah. So then John could go hog wild with whatever bizarre combinations of chords he
You
wants
always
to
come
go
back,
to.
and that especially you feel that after the middle, whatever, the rave up, when it comes back to the lick.
Oh.
It's such a drop back down to home.
I'll tell you, I'm not surprised that the girls were screaming after those guys, because that is probably the most orgasmic section of music I've ever heard in my life. When that buildup happens, and you finally get home from all, it's like, relief, It's like, yeah, I hope you're happy, honey, because I just came,
Because it's over.
So, yeah. So we'll talk about melody later, I guess, but now let's talk about melody in this section right now. Ever since I was a little boy, I always thought the chords sounded kind of screwy to me, like they didn't kind of make sense. Even as a little boy, this going to this just didn't make sense to me musically. I don't know why I even felt that, but I felt it. And I've tried to sing the song. God knows I don't have the register anymore to sing it, but it took me so long. This section of the music is really hard to sing. He's singing. That's what John sings. It took me so long. Like, what the hell? And I thought this could have been made a lot easier if he just went down a half step. So long. Da, da.
Yeah. Yeah.
But probably Paul took that note because it would harmonize with this. I don't know. Is there a harmony in that moment? I don't think there even is.
I feel like there is, but I can't remember at the moment.
Too bad we can't play the actual song. That would have been
No,
nice. But
heaven
okay.
forfend.
Yeah,
The gods
yeah.
of YouTube would not like that.
Universal Music Group would throw me out of the universe. Right? That's one of the points I wanted to bring up is the melody. I call them ghost notes almost because when you hear the resolution, you can't really determine what the hell note it is. I had to go to Galeazzo Frudua's vocal
yes.
lesson.
Galeazzo
Right?
Frudua, the Beatles Vocal Harmony YouTube channel.
Yes, indeed. And he does that pretty well, although I do have a discrepancy with one of the things he sang. I don't think he properly hit the note that Paul sang in that moment. But yeah, da-da. That sounds like a Paul melody to me for some reason, but it's supposedly John, right? Da-da-da-da-da. And the song is fast, so it's not noticeable, but that is the awful minor ninth interval. Got a good reason for taking the easy way out. Got a good reason. I think that for taking the easy way. Now, I have to talk about harmony. I guess I'm going to be scattered all over the place. I can't compartmentalize this. All right, so I have to talk about what actually happened in those vocals. So you know right off the bat that first line is Paul. Got a good reason. You could hear it right away. But for taking the easy way out. Now, this is a rare moment in Beatles. You know what's going on in that second line? You have any idea? John took the higher note, and Paul did the lower harmony below it.
Interesting.
So, got a good reason. All right, that's Paul. This is John taking the easy way out, right? And Paul sings, wait. Yeah. That's it. It's too thinky for me to put those two harmonies together, but you get the idea, right? That's the harmony. Which is kind of cool, actually, right? But that's a rare moment where John takes the upper and Paul takes the lower. So I thought I'd point that out. There's a little bit of musical trivia in that song. And I learned that from Galeazzo Frudua, actually. He's the one that
So does that mean Paul is singing the melody in the first half and John is singing the melody in the second half?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
And Paul felt like, okay, let's bolster John's melody up by doing a lower harmony. And it's a difficult harmony to sing. This is where these guys were so talented. To be able to sing those harmonies is not easy. And we're not even into the chorus part of the melody yet.
Yeah.
All right. So, right? But what we get is right. So that's the melody. Da, 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 da. But Paul sings in fifths. Yeah, that's it. It's singing in fifths. This is what I call bagpipe harmonies, because with bagpipes you have the it's like just a perfect fifth sound. That is really strange, but my ear definitely picked it up. They are perfect fifths, and it's very, very weird. But cool in the context. Once again,
It's not something I consciously ever picked up on, but yeah, you can tell that it's not a regular harmony going on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, after the podcast, give it a listen. Listen to that section. It's really, wow. It's kind of like they did that. And it works. It's part of the Beatles' magic. Sometimes I think they had bad ideas, but they worked anyway because they were the Beatles. Like, I would never think to harmonize that section in fifths. I don't get that at all. But there they did it. Once again, just to really drive home how weird it is. Very strange. Very strange indeed. Yeah, I talked about when I found out. All right, good. I'm actually hitting some of my notes. I'm really surprised. By the way, but let's talk about the intro. We missed that. Well, let me talk about the form. The form has a 10-bar intro, an odd number of bars, okay? And we're going to see weirdness, by the way, in the middle 12 section as well. We're going to see some timing strangeness that goes on there. But we have a 10-bar intro, and the reason why is we're hearing the lick repeating. And then Paul comes in and doubles. And we're hearing that maybe the fifth iteration, the tambourine will come in. And just when it sounds like it's done, wait, we need Ringo. So they literally added 2 bars to that. Normal 8, they added 2 more bars to have Ringo bring it in. And again, it's these little quirks that make their music so interesting, So, after that we have the verse, got a good reason, day trip, took so long to find out, and it goes back to... So we have 2 bars of lick there. Then we have the next verse, does the same thing, except instead of going and doing it twice like it does on the record, they go to the B note, so... Talk about this wonderfulness that this is. First of all, this, as you already attested, the excitement just builds and builds and builds in this section. It's like, when's the cork going to blow here? It's just amazing. What happens? First of all, I want to cite Igor Stravinsky here. All right.
As often comes up in Beatles discussion.
It reminds me of a philosophy of Igor Stravinsky, where back in his day of classical composition, no holds were barred after a while. You could do anything. So you had all atonal music and all this. And I think at heart Stravinsky really wanted to be a tonal composer. He didn't want it to be all that abstract. So I think I've told you about this before. His theory was instead of a chord having tension and resolving to another chord, like, right? Instead of doing that, you can have a whole section of music that is tense. And that's acting like that tense chord. And then you have a whole section that's mellifluous and harmonically easy to deal with, right? So this reminds me of Stravinsky in that sense, because the B7, it's got to go home to E. It just has to. And they're going. You know, like, finally. And when it hits the lick, it's like, oh, thank God. You know, it's like, wow. So, first I'm going to cite, this whole thing is based on building in lots of ways, and it's very subtle what's going on. First of all, definitely, James, I would recommend you to look at Mike Pichelli's breakdown of Lennon's guitar part. It'll blow your mind what he's doing. It's so weird. During that section, okay? It's almost like he didn't know what to do, and he said, just thought, I'm going to do lots of weird stuff, I don't know what it was about. The other musicians, however, are contributing to the build-up nature of it. Now, how John's part sits in that build-up nature might actually support what's going on. I don't know. I wouldn't know. I'd have to isolate, like, the vocal tracks, George's part, and John's part, if those three isolated, to see how they would all work together. But we don't have that yet. But first, let's talk about what George is doing. So we're on... Now, George, I don't know if he does this when the vocal harmonies start to rise, but he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1... He does this build-up, this Mixolydian scale based on its own fifth, okay, like an F sharp. An F sharp is the starting note of a B Mixolydian scale in that moment, okay? So he doesn't start on the B, he starts on the F sharp to play the B Mixolydian scale. Now, here's the weirdness, man, okay? This is 12 bars of music, but it doesn't feel like 12 bars. I don't know if you noticed it, but it feels like the timing is slightly odd. And the reason why is, I figured it out, is when the guys come in and start singing, all that stuff, they come in on the 7th bar. If they had come in on the 5th bar or the 9th bar, it would have sounded like equivalent, because our minds in the West think about 4 or 8 bar intervals, right? But the 7th bar means that the prior 6 bars were the cycle, 6-bar cycle, rather, so it throws you off when you hear that come in, because what happens is the vocals are so strong that sounds like the beginning of something. But the beginning of something should have been at the 5th bar or the 9th bar, right? Not at the 7th bar. So listen, give that a listen too. Listen for that when you get a chance. It's pretty amazing. Now, I remember I was having dinner and I had to stop in the middle because I went, oh crap, I got to figure this out now for the podcast. And that was, what are the three of them harmonizing during that section? So what we have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 triads, 6 chords being harmonized. And it starts off with the B triad going to E, to F sharp minor, to G sharp minor, to A, to B. God, I wish we could play the damn track, so I could demonstrate it, but that's exactly what's going on. That's the way they harmonize themselves, and it almost sounds like the chord family template, except it isn't.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't that the chord? Oh wait, no, it isn't. But okay, right. So but that must be why it's that weird timing, why it's the six repeat cycle, because we've got 6 chords, right?
Right.
And the whole thing is 12, so it's 6 and 6.
The whole thing is 12. Right.
Yeah. So it does make sense. It's just weird.
Well, it makes... I guess so. I mean, if I was with them and I was in the band, I'd have said, guys, it's coming in a weird place, don't you think? And maybe they would say, well, look, we could only go so high, and we could only do 6 of these before we like run out of ability to sing it. So it could be that. Again, these are one of these things I wish I was a fly on the wall, because James, we're never going to get that information ever. Mark Lewison notwithstanding, nobody's going to know what they did in that moment. Was Jeff Emmerich with them at the time? Of Rubber Soul?
I feel this was before Jeff.
It was before Jeff Emmerich. He came in on Revolver.
On Revolver, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the musicianship. All right. Now, Paul on bass, he's beginning to show glimmerings of this is not just an instrument holding up the roots and the fifths of chords. This is a melodic instrument, right? So in other words, standard bass player might go. That almost sounds like it could be Latin.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Right? Well, I sent you a link to Brasil 66 doing Day Tripper, and it is totally Latin, and it's actually kind of cool. Dorky 60s, but kind of cool in a way. Anyway, what Paul does is sort of he's doing this whole arpeggio thing. Something like that. It was like this pumping thing, but I forget how it happened. And then back to the lick. So we have that, Paul is kind of opening up. This song is very much the beginning of psychedelia in ways too. The reference to acid, number one, and well, maybe it's just the lyric that makes it psychedelic, because this is really rock and roll, man. This is rock and roll,
What's Paul doing in the build-up? Is he just hammering on the beat?
That's a good question. I do not know. I did not check, but I'm assuming he's doubling that. Yeah, I would assume he's doubling that. But now that you brought it up, I have to go check it. Okay, James, I want you to ask me a question. I want you to ask me, why does this song remind me of Revolution, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band song, I Am the Walrus, and Twist and Shout?
I understand Twist and Shout. I understand Revolution. I understand Sgt. Pepper because we just talked about it. I have no idea about I Am the Walrus. But Vinny, why does this song remind you of those songs?
Glad you brought that up, James. Actually, I don't think you know why. I don't think you really know why this reminds me of Revolution.
Maybe not. I would assume because it's like it's a blues form with a lick.
Blues form, right. Well, that's valid enough, but there's a chord movement in there that's exactly in this song. Okay, now I'm going to transpose Revolution to the key of E. All right. Say you want a revolution? Well, we all want to change the world. Let me go. But if you talk, wait. Now I'm getting out of context here. I gotta do it in context. It is before the solution. Well, yeah, where goes the beat? We all want to change the world, but when you talk about destruction, don't you know that you can count me? Wait, I count me out. All right, there it is. All right. When you talk about destruction, don't you know that you could count me out? Remember that from Day Tripper? Same two chords.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first heard Revolution, I had the same reaction. Those chords sound weird going to each other.
Yeah.
Musical forensics, man. Lennon is quoting himself. you know? So just thought I'd throw that out there. Now, all right, so we have other ones. Why does it remind me of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the song? I think you know the answer to that, because Sgt. Pepper's is composed of all seventh chords, and this song is composed of all seventh chords. Why does it remind me of I Am the Walrus? This is a little stretchy, but not terribly so. If you remember the so-called outro of I Am the Walrus, we have the orchestra going, da, It's awesome, by the way. That was George Martin's idea, but I'm sure it was his idea. Absolutely brilliant of him to think of that. And it worked out just perfect. Just perfect. All right, because it's a 7-chord string, all right, which is weird because it's going to like go out of phase as it goes, you know. Now, what in Day Tripper is like that? Well, we have George's part going,
Right.
And we have
that is pretty subtle,
vocals.
but yeah, when you point it out, yeah, I get it.
But don't forget, we also have the harmonies going. So yeah, you're right. It's kind of subtle. And Twist and Shout is the ahs that open it.
To be fair, Twist and Shout's build-up is still my favorite. That's still my favorite build-up of all time.
I'm not even so sure that was the Beatles' idea. The original song.
I don't know. Was it in the original? I don't know.
Yeah,
but the Beatles did it well. Let's put it that way.
They did it well, and they did it so excitingly. God bless them. They were just so exciting and so. God, yeah. Yeah, this song. I don't know. I think in a sense, this particular song was a turning point for me when it came to the Beatles, like when I was a kid. At first, I was latched on to the Beatles because the girls loved them, and they screamed, and because they were so exciting to watch. They were just an exciting new thing. But this song caught my ear. This lick caught my ear. It's just badass lick. Yeah. So it's
it's the equivalent for my generation of when the Smashing Pumpkins released Zero, and it's like, oh, they're really going for something different than the Siamese Dream sound that they could have kept going with the rest of their career, right?
I couldn't have said that better, James.
I get it.
Exactly.
I get it.
Now
we need someone to interpret for the Gen Zs, in Taylor Swift or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I don't think that'll happen, man. That defining moment will not happen. Yeah. But yeah, there was something about this song that. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to throw in there. I was thinking of my buddy Rob Mullins, my jazz piano playing buddy, and we were in the same band together. I know I've told you this in private before. I don't think I've said it on a podcast, but any song that was either Mixolydian or laid on a dominant seventh chord for a while, if I was soloing, I'd throw in the Day Tripper lick into it. So, for example, if we were doing On Broadway, right? And I'd start soloing. Yeah. That whole thing, Rob would just bust out laughing. He would just laugh really good because I don't know if you noticed this in some jazz circles, they like to make quotes of other songs. Have you heard this before in jazz where somebody will quote a totally different song in their solo, right? Well, we were doing that, but in this kind of pop music context, But it was a guaranteed laugh between us, and of course he would try to throw it in when he could, and I'd laugh my ass off, But the thing is, this kind of outlines. That's a dominant seventh arpeggio, really, with a blue note. And then you get the ninth. So
it's a very, very, very iconic lick. I can imagine it was extremely influential and probably, definitely influenced bands coming after it. You sent me a list of all of the various people who've covered this song. It's quite a list.
Including...
I haven't listened to them all, but I'm going to say, without having listened to them all, that Tommy Emmanuel is my favorite. He is
Oh,
just
probably.
incredible
Yeah,
the way he plays it.
he's a sick guitar player too. Like nothing, man. Like nobody could touch that guy except Yasho Stefan, the gypsy jazz guitarist. And they're buddies. They play together. But yeah, I was surprised. I'm going to look up the Mae West version of it myself. I didn't know Mae West did a cover of it. I did check out Sergio Mendez's version, and it's going to be an interesting. And a lot of bands, just like I quoted that lick, like I was telling you how I used to quote the lick. A lot of bands, if you look at the bottom of the list, they'll say quotation of the lick or something like that. They didn't do the whole song, but they made a reference to it.
Yep.
So,
Including Stone Roses, Velvet Underground, and the Eagles. Your favorite.
Yeah, the Eagles. God, I adore the Eagles when they're not playing music.
Yeah. I was going to say, is somebody holding a gun to your head?
Well, yeah. Have you ever seen the Big Lebowski, the famous Big Lebowski movie? Yeah. When he gets in the cab and the guy has the Eagles going, he goes, what does he say? He goes, oh man, I can't. What does he say? Like I hate the Eagles, or I can't stand the Eagles, something like that. And I thought, wow, man, you're my man, dude.
That was when you learned to love that movie. I get it. Anyway, this has been another edition of The Eagles Suck. I mean, band with kaleidoscope ears. Have we exhausted the well of Day Tripper here, Vinny?
Yeah, I think I've said, I'm really surprised because my notes were all over the map, and I didn't think I'd gather all my thoughts together, but I think I got a lot of them.
I think we covered it musically and lyrically. Yeah, what can you say? It makes its point. I think everyone gets what it's about, even if it is a one-way ticket when it should have been a round-trip ticket. But I think we get the idea.
I would love to hear the rationalization for that from them. Like, how does that refer to the Day Tripper girl? And by the way, one more thing about the lyric is that I think they were trying to kind of downplay the drug reference. Because the second verse is like, she's a big teaser, like he's talking about her, right?
Well, it's kind of about both, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they were probably trying to soften it. Also, of course, she's a big teaser was originally, she's a prick teaser. So there you
go. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe like they one of them sang it in the background somewhere. It'd be like them to do that. I know they were all a fluster over the fact that they sang tit 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 and girl.
Right.
It's kind of boyish humor there, but whatever. Okay.
Anyway, we don't countenance that kind of immature juvenile behavior, do we?
Yeah, but when this gets uploaded, it has to be like not for children because we said dirty things tonight.
Yes, good point. Well, the Beatles should be not for children, just generally. Right?
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, actually, they were for children. I mean, in the beginning, teens, young tweens and teens love them. It's what they appealed to at first, until we all realized, oh, these guys are actually great.
My boy's first song that I ever heard him sing was Yellow Submarine. So there you go. Must be something.
I guess you were going to say Yellow Submarine. I had a feeling. Yeah. Very cool, man. Yeah, keep educating them. Keep letting them know of the greatness. What greatness in music
They know.
is.
We play Beatles Uno every night. I'm not even joking.
Oh my God. Is there an actual Beatles Uno
There is a
game?
Beatles Uno. And you know what? I will give you one guess. Which Beatle is which color? You got red and blue and yellow and green. And you already know which Beatle is which color. You can just sense it.
Can I? That's red, yellow, blue. Well, yellow might be Ringo
Yes. Yep.
for Yellow Submarine.
Oh, right. Okay. I didn't even think of that. But yeah, it's yellow.
Blue is, I think of George.
Oh, good try. I get where you're coming from, but no, it's not George. So it must be
Paul.
No. What are you talking about? John. John is the blues. Come on.
Oh, the blues. Oh, I get it. Yeah. Okay, I got that. So, what do we have left? Green?
Green and red.
I don't know
This
who
is
else
what
out
people
there is
come
going to
for.
guess. Yeah, right. Uh, is Paul red because he's
Yep.
dynamic?
Yep.
Okay.
And George is green.
And George is green. Well, all
You
right.
pretty
I
much
got
had it.
two out
You
of
pretty much had it.
2 out of 4 isn't bad.
I'd say 3 because you got Paul without getting it wrong. So there you go. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, we really play that every night, so they know the Beatles' faces, even, let alone their music.
And that's great, man. That's really great. That's great. I think I mentioned to you that I have this kind of temptation to watch Gen Z reactions to Beatles music. I don't know why, but I have to watch. It's kind of like, I don't know, like I'm a voyeur. Like, what are these kids thinking? You know, like where are their
Vinny,
minds
I
at?
want to see you. You have to make a reaction video to Gen Z reacting to the Beatles, and me and Sean are going to react to your reaction video.
That's an awesome idea, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, right after we do the bands that covered Beatles songs
Yes.
podcast.
And Beatles firsts. We also have to talk about that.
Beatles first. Those are all worthy subjects.
In the meantime,
All right.
how can
All
people
right.
get a lesson
Well,
from you if they are interested?
If you want a lesson from me, Vincognito, like incognito with a V, at gmail.com. And I specialize in music theory. That's my thing. My YouTube channel, is /Vincognito, youtube.com/Vincognito. So Vincognito is kind of my brand. So if you, I was really shocked one day when I typed Vincognito into Google and I got a whole dossier on me. You know, it's like everything I ever said on the internet is there. Yeah, which is ironic. Vincognito.
Yeah.
I'm not incognito at all.
No. Very much Vin Exposto.
Yeah, right. So I'll have to change my brand, I guess.
All right.
All right, that's it, everybody. Thanks for coming by and listening in. I hope you had a great time. James, great to be working with you again. I always enjoy it.
I don't know
And,
if they
we'll
enjoy
see you-
this, but I love it. So anyway, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, well, that's the important thing, I think. I know they should enjoy it too, but it's kind of like the Beatles, okay? The Beatles loved what they were doing so much that the audience picked up on that love and they loved it. Hopefully, the same will happen with people that watch this podcast. So, yeah. And on that note, good night, everybody. Peace out.